Welcome to Space Quiz. Test your knowledge with 50 exciting questions, covering topics like biology, chemistry, and the human body. Hit like to boost your memory and stay until the end for the surprise question. Comment your score and challenge your friends. Ready? Let's begin. What is a common characteristic of all animals in the animal kingdom? Producing their own food, having cells without a nucleus, or being made of cells and feeding on other living beings? Being made of cells and feeding on other living beings. Regarding vertebrates and invertebrates, which statement is true? Invertebrates do not have an internal skeleton. Vertebrates are always aquatic, or all vertebrates are mammals. Invertebrates do not have an internal skeleton. Which of the following is an example of a vertebrate? Earthworm, fish, or spider? Fish. Which of the following is an example of an invertebrate? Dog, cat, or butterfly? Butterfly. Which of the following groups belongs to invertebrates? Mammals, annelids, like earthworms, or birds? Annelids, like earthworms. What is the main characteristic of mammals? Laying eggs always in water, breathing through gills, or having mammary glands? Having mammary glands. What characterizes birds? Having fur all over the body, having feathers and a beak, or living only in aquatic environments? Having feathers and a beak. Which of the following is an example of a reptile? Frog, snake, or duck? Snake. In the food chain, what are producers? Carnivorous animals, plants and algae that produce their own food, or fungi that decompose organic matter? Plants and algae that produce their own food. What are primary consumers usually? Herbivores, carnivores, or organisms that perform photosynthesis? Herbivores. What are decomposers? Organisms that produce oxygen, organisms that break down organic matter into nutrients for the soil, or organisms that feed only on fruits? Organisms that break down organic matter into nutrients for the soil. An example of a secondary consumer in a terrestrial food chain could be grasshopper, herbivore, snake, feeds on rodents, or grass, plant. Snake, feeds on rodents. What does omnivore mean? Animal that eats only plants, animal that eats only meat, or animal that eats both plants and animals? Animal that eats both plants and animals. How does a food web differ from a food chain? It represents multiple interconnected food chains. It only appears in aquatic environments, or it does not include decomposers. It represents multiple interconnected food chains. Which of the following is an example of an aquatic mammal? Shark, whale, or sea turtle? Whale. Which of the following represents a herbivorous animal? Tiger, lion, or horse? Horse. Which of these is an arthropod? Snail, spider, or earthworm? Spider. What is the primary role of decomposers in nature? Control prey populations, break down dead material and return nutrients to the soil, or produce their own food with sunlight? Break down dead material and return nutrients to the soil. Animals like frogs and toads are classified as amphibians, reptiles, or birds. Amphibians. In animals, the reproductive process that occurs inside the female's body, generating live young, is typical of mammals, birds, or fish. Mammals. Among reptiles, which animals are included? Alligators, snakes, and lizards frogs and toads, or chickens and ducks? Alligators, snakes, and lizards. Which of the following does not represent a vertebrate group? Mammals, birds, or mollusks? Mollusks. What is the largest land mammal? Lion, elephant, or giraffe? Elephant. In the marine environment, why are algae important? They provide light for fish to hunt, they are producers and form the base of the food chain, or they do not contain chlorophyll and do not participate in photosynthesis. They are producers and form the base of the food chain. When a termite eats wood, it acts as a producer, a decomposer, or a primary consumer. A primary consumer. Which group of animals lives part of its life in water and part on land? Amphibians, mammals, or reptiles? Amphibians. An interaction where one species benefits while the other is harmed is called mutualism, competition, or parasitism. Parasitism. What is the classification of humans based on diet? Carnivorous, herbivorous, or omnivorous? Omnivorous. A carnivorous animal is one that eats only plants, eats meat, other animals, or eats fruits and seeds. Eats meat, other animals. In a forest, what is usually the first trophic level in a food chain? Secondary consumers, producers, or carnivores? Producers. What differentiates amphibians from reptiles? Amphibians have thin and moist skin, reptiles have scales or plates. Amphibians have feathers, reptiles do not, or reptiles perform photosynthesis. Amphibians have thin and moist skin, reptiles have scales or plates. Which of these animals is not a mammal? Bat, whale, or chicken? Chicken. Birds lay eggs with hard shells, soft shells, or no shells at all. Hard shells. The environment where animals like scaly fish, sharks, and rays live is forest, marine or freshwater, or desert. Marine or freshwater. What is a simple sequence of a food chain? Producer, decomposer, consumer, consumer, producer, decomposer, or producer, consumer, decomposer? Producer, consumer, decomposer. What are detritivorous animals? Animals that consume live insects, animals that feed on detritus and organic matter, or animals that do not need to eat? Animals that feed on detritus and organic matter. An example of a detritivorous animal is vulture, wolf, or dung beetle. Dung beetle. How do fish mainly breathe? Through lungs, through gills, or through their skin? Through gills. Which animal undergoes complete metamorphosis? Egg, larva, pupa, adult? Butterfly, chicken, or horse? Butterfly. Which of these groups of animals typically have segmented bodies, exoskeletons, and jointed legs? Amphibians, arthropods, or mollusks? Arthropods. A correct food chain sequence in a river could be algae of small fish, large fish, algae, small fish, or small fish, large fish, algae. Algae, small fish, large fish. Why are bees important for pollination? They are carnivorous, they produce oxygen, or they transport pollen between flowers. They transport pollen between flowers. Among echinoderms, which animals are included? Starfish and sea urchins, whales and dolphins, or sponges and jellyfish? Starfish and sea urchins. In a terrestrial ecosystem, who is usually a tertiary consumer? Animals that feed on producers, top predators, e.g., big cats, or decomposers. Top predators, e.g., big cats. Animals that do not regulate their internal body temperature, depending on the environment, are called endothermic, homeothermic, or ectothermic. Ectothermic. In a food web, what happens if we drastically reduce producers? The ecosystem remains stable. The number of consumers tends to decrease, or decomposers increase indefinitely. The number of consumers tends to decrease. An example of a filter feeder animal that consumes small particles in water is blue whale, plankton eater, great white shark, or eagle. Blue whale, plankton eater. Which of these is an example of mutualism? A tick on a dog, a pilot fish cleaning a shark's leftovers, or a predator devouring its prey? A pilot fish cleaning a shark's leftovers. What is one important function of earthworms in the soil? Producing edible fruits, aerating the soil and aiding decomposition, or always being pests that destroy crops? Aerating the soil and aiding decomposition. In a natural food chain, humans usually act as producers and decomposers, omnivorous consumers, or exclusively herbivores. Omnivorous consumers. Thank you, and see you next time.